Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Business of Fun podcast. I am your host, Dave Wakeman. Today's episode is brought to you by my good friends at Booking Protect, the global leaders in refund protection. Any listing, any sector, anywhere, Booking Protect has you covered with the world's most comprehensive refund protection product. To find out how you and your organization can partner with Booking Protect to deliver a better buying experience for your customer, more peace of mind in the purchase, and you and your organization can create a brand new stream of revenue for your business, visit them at www.bookingprotect.com. Once again, that's www.bookingprotect.com, the global leaders in refund protection. While I'm on the subject of Booking Protect and visiting them, you should know that Simon Mabb, the CEO of Booking Protect, and me, Dave Wakeman, will be in Australia on Thursday and Friday, the 14th and 15th of November, visiting the Australian Ticketing Professionals Conference. You can find out a whole lot about the Australian Ticketing Professionals Conference by visiting them on their website, which is www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. At the Ticketing Professional Conference, you're going to be able to see me give the opening keynote about change. Simon's going to be talking about customer focus, delivering customer service digitally, how customer service can create and change your business and create new revenue opportunities. It's going to be a great opportunity to engage and connect with me and Simon. There's going to be some other great partners of ours and people that we know and love who will be there. This conference is going to be in Sydney during the summer. It's going to be a great opportunity. You'll be able to hook up with me and Simon. So make sure you get your tickets by visiting www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. And as an added bonus, buy your tickets today. Send me your receipt, your invoice, to my email address, dave@davewakeman.com. And we'll put something together, a special gift or some kind of surprise for you and your team, okay? And the more people that are on that invoice or that come from a team, the more likely is that I am going to come up with something even greater and more high impact for your organization. Don't let me sway you, but the more people, the better the surprise I'll give you is going to be. So send me that invoice at dave@davewakeman.com. Visit www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au so that you make sure you hook up with me and Simon Mabb when we're in Sydney in November. We're super excited to be there, and we look forward to seeing you. So www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. My guest today is one of the two ladies that are running the Ticketing Professionals Conference in Australia in November that I just went on and on and on about. Angela Higgins. I had Angela on because Joe, her business partner in this endeavor, was on very early in the podcast, and we have been looking for a good excuse to have her on the podcast. Anyway, but I figured since they have announced their keynote speaker this week, it would be a good time to have her on. So we talk about who the keynote speaker is. Spoiler alert, you may have heard of him before. We talked about what they all the work that's gone into creating this conference, where it was born from, some of the challenges of creating change and bringing new ideas to a market. We talked about the Australian market. We talked about customer service and competition. We talked about mentoring. We talked about innovation, impact, customer focus, dynamic pricing, social media, venues, all kinds of great stuff. It was a really cool conversation. I was excited to have Angela on. Like I said, she's announcing who the keynote speaker is. Spoiler alert, it's me. I'm so excited to go. I was only partly joking when I said that Simon and I talk about this every week. It's probably twice a week. We're both excited to be going down. It's going to be an awesome conference. Angela and Joe are both just phenomenal people, and I wanted to introduce Angela to my listeners, and I wanted to introduce the conference to everybody because I think it's going to be great. I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn, engage, and for people to grow. So without any longer of an introduction, here's my conversation with Angela Higgins on the Business of Fun. I want to welcome a very special guest to the Business of Fun podcast. It's Angela Higgins. Angela, what's up?
Hi, Dave. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Now, I know that you were coming on to talk about your conference that you're putting on with Joe Michelle, and the rumor is that you have have a keynote speaker that's going to be there, and it's somebody that people may or may not have heard of before, especially people who listen to this podcast. Who is it? Who's going to be talking?
Well, thanks, Dave. Look, we're very excited. We've made an announcement this week.
It's a little late. Though. Like I've already let the cat out of the bag a few times.
We have. Look, we're really excited by the response that we've received to our announcement this week that you will be coming down under to give the keynote address at the Ticketing Professionals Conference. I think you can probably talk a little better about what people can expect.
Well, if they've listened to this podcast, they almost all know what to expect. But I first off, I have been teasing the thing for weeks because I am so excited that you thought of me to ask me, and I was so flattered. So thank you so much for inviting me. I can't say how excited I am, and I know that my friend Simon Mabb, who's the CEO of Booking Protect, is coming with me, and if I don't hear from him at least once a week about it. How excited he is. We are both super excited to come down, and I was really excited about what you talked about as an idea to discuss at the conference, which was about the idea of change, right? And I know that I have been joking to this point about, if you listen to me, you know what I'm talking about, but change, because change is a constant, right? And I think the working title for what I'm going to do has been called The Courage to Change. But change has been something that's been on my mind, I think, for most of my career, if not the entire career, even though there was probably a few years early on where I wasn't that thoughtful about these things. But what has changed to me has always been kind of clearly defined by this quote that I remember from about 1995 when Pat Riley, who is a professional basketball coach, he was the coach of the Showtime Lakers and the New York Knicks in the 90s. He came to the Miami Heat. He said change is the only thing in constant in life is change. And when change rears her beautiful face, you embrace her. Because without it, you have nothing else. And that's always been my sort of viewpoint on this. And what I found out over the past couple of years when I've thought more completely about change is that it isn't that people are necessarily afraid of change. It's a lot of times they don't know where to start. And what I hope to deliver when I give my talk is I hope to give people just a few tools, a little inspiration, and a little courage to take action. Take just one small little step to get them moving in towards a better future. Because the standing still and waiting for the world to change around you and then figuring out what you're going to do from there, it's a dangerous thing to do. And it likely is one of the reasons that a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses, a lot of people find themselves in really, really challenging circumstances. And if I've had any success in my life, it has been because of my ability to be proactive in changing. And so that's the message I want to bring down. Hopefully people will like it.
Yeah, that's terrific. And as I said, we're excited. As you know, we have been talking about this for quite some time now. It's been almost 2 years of discussion to get the conference up and running, and 2 years in the planning. And I think that's the topic that we've discussed is I think it suits the conference really well, because what we're trying to achieve with the Ticketing Professionals Conference, what we will achieve with the Ticketing Professionals Conference, is to start to have discussions that we might not otherwise have. Joe Michelle, my business partner, and I had been attending a number of international conferences where incredible innovation was being presented, new ideas, new technology, and lots of wonderful discussions happening. But they were happening on the other side of the world. And in the Australian market, we're geographically isolated, and we're in a time zone that's a little strange. I mean, right now it's sort of the crack of dawn here in Sydney, and I'm speaking to you. It's late afternoon in Washington. So, the conversations are often happening, in different time zones, and conversations with people on the other side of the world. as a result, sometimes new technology and new ideas can be slow to hit our shore. And when Joe and I were attending these international conferences, we would meet with organisations that had great technology that could solve a problem that we were facing in Australia, even though we are further away. We're facing exactly the same challenges or similar challenges to a lot of organisations that were in attendance at these conferences. But without a forum like the Ticketing Professionals Conference, there wasn't really a place for these companies to present these ideas and to present these solutions. And so a lot of them were saying to Joe and I, "Oh, great, you're from Australia. We want to come out to that market. Where's the forum like this? What's the conference that we should come to?" And Joe and I were like, "We'll get back to you." And so we are really excited with the response that we've seen so far from a lot of these organisations. They're making the trip down under. We've been told specifically to put the conference in the Australian summer so that everyone can escape your European, your Northern Hemisphere winter and come down under.
I'm a huge
for a
fan of the timing of this thing. I must be honest, because the weather in November has been bad, usually long enough that I'm like going, there's got to be someplace nice I can go.
Yeah, so that was a very deliberate move by Joe and I to ensure that we can attract the kind of international organisations.
Also, don't lie to us. You're lying to my audience too. It's also so we can throw Joe a big birthday party.
That's right.
Let's not kid ourselves. Come on.
That's right. So yeah, there'll be plenty of celebration. The opening day of the conference happens to be Joe's birthday as well. So she'll be mortified that I'm I'm discussing that with you right now.
Well, I do that to her too, privately, so it's okay. She's getting it in private and in public, so it's like she's got to get used to it.
Excellent. So yes, there's a lot of planning going into that as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great idea, and of course, by traveling to all these international conferences, that's how we met, and and it is great, and it is often one of those things. To me, this is going to be the second time that I've had this conversation today, which will be no less than the fourth time I've had it this week, which is like meeting all these people from all over the world and exchanging these ideas, and having the capacity to impact people in time zones that are where it's Saturday morning and it's Friday night where I'm at, is one of the really, really, truly great things about doing what I do now and what you do, right? Which is like it's like I have friends all over the world, and to be able to help them and share ideas with them so that they can do that, have better businesses and make people happier. It's an unbelievable opportunity, and I think so I'm so proud of what you and Joe are doing.
Yeah. Look, we're really excited about it too. Joe and I were both really fortunate to have incredible mentors throughout our career, and those people were really, really influential in helping us to sort of develop our skills, but also in staying in the industry. And we have discussions all the time with organisations that sort of say to us, where do you find your staff, or where do you find people with experience in ticketing, or in certain aspects of ticketing. And a lot of organisations want to provide career development for their ticketing staff and their marketing staff, but in a lot of organisations, unless it's a very large organisation, there might only be one or two people in the marketing and ticketing team. So who are these people learning from? Who's available to sort of mentor them, and where do they go if they really want to develop their skills? So these are the sorts of things that we're really excited that the conference will provide an opportunity for people to do just that, to share ideas and to also take advantage of ideas that are being presented there and innovate. So yeah, we're really thrilled with the response so far, and I think the fact that we started taking registrations immediately. We put registrations on sale a little over a month ago, and we're really pleased with the initial response. What we're seeing is delegates coming from right across the country, and some international as well, which is really exciting for us. But from coast to coast, we've got delegates coming from really large organisations down to tiny little venues, consultants. We have venues, ticketing companies, and sporting organisations, cultural organisations, arts organisations. So we're really getting that mix of people that we've been targeting, and we're thrilled with that, because that's exactly what we're trying to do: get together people who wouldn't otherwise have a chance to meet, and and share problems and share ideas. Because I think innovation. I was attending another conference where there was a talk on innovation, and there was this great opening that the speaker had, and they said, innovation doesn't start with an idea. Innovation starts with a problem, and that's really that's really stayed with me. I think that's good things happen when we are faced with an issue, and it requires us to change and to innovate. And so the fact that we can get people together who've all faced problems and had to find solutions means that we can share some really great innovation that's come out of that.
Yeah, I have been really, really pleased with the different, with how diverse the attendees are, right? Because, when you're talking about cultural institutes and theater, they don't always hang out with the sports people, right? And
No.
And one of the weird things is, and I don't know that people actually ever think about this until I frame it, right? Which I'm going to do right now for everybody, is the fact that I have been involved with the teams, and I have been involved with Broadway, and I have been involved with cultural, and that makes me unique, because most of the time it's like you pick a path and you stay on it. I was unable to pick a path, is what the problem was. But so I'm really excited, because I know that just from my own experiences that there's so much everybody can learn from each other, right? It's a really great opportunity, because the cultural institutions, I remember talking, and I don't remember who I was speaking with at the Sydney Opera House a couple years back, but talking about some of the experiential things that they're doing, or were doing at the time, to keep the building fresh for millennials, right? And newer customers who were really like kind of always looking for something new, like a different experience, which is a challenge that everybody is dealing with. So to take the Sydney Opera House, which is one of the, if not the most iconic building in the world, and say this is a problem that we're having of attracting people because they become ho-hum about the experience, and taking that and telling a sports organization, that should be like a eureka moment for them, like, because you're both dealing with the same thing, right? It doesn't matter if you're a world, one of the most recognizable buildings in the world, you still have to overcome the same problems. And if you recognize that your problems are very similar, then you can talk about how you deal with them. And that's really, really powerful, because as a marketer, I always say, hey, look, everybody comes to you with a worldview. It's expensive to change, and it's unlikely you'll be successful. The great thing about that is, though, is because everybody has a worldview and experiences and things that they bring to them. If I'm talking to you, right, I always learn stuff from you, right? And hopefully you learn from me when we talk. If I'm smart, I pay attention and I learn stuff because you're seeing the world differently than I am, and you're bringing a different set of ideas. And that's what I've really been excited about, because there's such diversity of people from backgrounds who's coming to the conference, and that's really exciting, and that's like a real testament to what you're building.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yesterday, we were sitting with a client and talking about a whole host of issues that they were facing, and I made the comment that there's not a single production that we're working on at the moment, not a single person in the industry that I've spoken to who says, oh, you know what, we don't need to sell any more tickets right now. Our pace of sales is exactly where we need it to be. I think everybody was facing a similar challenge, in that we're all looking to increase our sales, to find new customers, and to increase revenue. And what we've found is in the last few years, the activities that we've done that have had the most impact, when we've seen the biggest impact on our sales, is when we've tried something new. And at the same time, the activities and the times that have had the least amount of impact on our sales was also when we tried something new. So trying something new. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you find that new idea, it really, really lands, and sometimes it doesn't. But if you don't try, you don't learn anything. And I think what we're able to do in the times when it does impact is you can look at, okay, that worked. How do we use that or a version of that to solve another problem? And when it doesn't work, we know that, well, we've learned that's not going to have an impact, and we can save ourselves some time and be more efficient by just not doing that again. So the opportunity again for people to sort of come together and share the things that worked as well as the things that didn't work, I think it's a really exciting discussion.
Well, I think what you said is really interesting to me, and it changed the question I was going to ask. Was it's interesting when you find stuff that doesn't work, and I think often if we're not careful, what happens is we look at a failure as of an idea as a failure, right? And it creates an environment where we go, we don't want to try anything else because we've failed. And I have this idea that I have been not talking about off and on for years, which was like the metabolism of change. And that has meant to me, and I think it's evolved, is that you have to become comfortable with trying things, good or bad, because trying something and having it work is great. Trying something and having it not work is just as great, because you learn something, hopefully, about why it didn't work, right? Or you learn something new about your market. So all experiences when you offer up a new idea are valuable, at least in my opinion. And, so knowing that one of the things that you're trying to do through the conference is create change and create the opportunity for people to take actions and take new ideas and encourage people to think more broadly, is looking at the market in Australia. What are some of the challenges that people are dealing with as far as overcoming the hurdles of change?
Yeah, absolutely. So change is definitely a key focus of the conference, and but one of the other themes that we're really focusing on is the customer, and understanding the customer and meeting the needs of the customer, and in ensuring that we are engaging the customer in a really meaningful way. We have a few sessions on how to find your customers in an ever increasingly it's increasingly difficult to reach customers. Less people watching pay TV, fewer people reading newspapers, fewer people listening to the commercial radio. They were all, particularly for the arts organisations that I work with, they were our traditional forms of advertising. That was where we reached our customers, and as we're finding they're less and less hanging out less and less in those places, how do we reach them? How do we engage with them? So there's a few sessions that address that in different ways as well. So we're really excited to talk about that, and we will be making some announcements of speakers over the coming weeks. We're thrilled with the response to the first announcement, so we've got a few more to come.
Yeah, no, we're going to roll them out well, and I know that we can't talk about them yet, but there's one that I think I wanted to highlight, and I'll probably continue to highlight it. Is that you said that there's going to be somebody talking about how to reach people who avoid advertising.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to be really
avoiders.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really awesome, because I think that one of the challenges that people need to overcome is the idea that if I can't use the normal, and I'm using normal in quotes here, the normal way of doing things, then I'm completely lost. And so this is the idea of advertisement avoidance. That's as far away as you can get, right? Because I know nobody wants to see the ad, but having a session about how do you reach people when they're avoiding you at all costs, that's going to be awesome. I mean, that's going to be great. I mean, I'll be in the front row unless there's people who beat me there first, because I really want to know how that works. Because I'm so interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, some of the other we've been speaking to people in the industry about what are the the burning issues? What are the things that you want to talk about? And two things that keep coming up for us are obviously after customer focus is dynamic pricing. How and just pricing in general, how to price it effectively and efficiently, and for some organisations, how to get started with dynamic pricing. What does dynamic pricing mean? These are the sorts of questions that keep coming up. Dynamic pricing is always a really, really popular topic and a hot topic. And the other one is social media again, and sort of touching on this advertising avoiders. If if our customers aren't consuming traditional forms of media, but they are on social media, how do we use that tool effectively and efficiently, particularly as it is evolving so quickly? There's a few sessions that we'll be announcing soon that really address those topics, and we think they'll be very heavily attended.
Yeah, it's the dynamic pricing one. The more I learn about it, the more fascinating it is, because and it's one of those things that when I worked with the secondary market in the States, that's just like sort of a natural part of that's just sort of how I learned to sell tickets, right? It was through a lens of dynamic pricing. But what is available now to organizations large and small should be a revelation, right? Because I know that if you search back in the podcast to listen to Sean Kelly from Vatic, the examples he gives for cultural organizations, they're unbelievable, right? The return on the investment is just huge. But you should also check out like what Derek Palmer is doing with QQ, right? I mean, they're doing some really, really great things too. And there's so many different examples of how people can use it. So, I mean, it's really something everybody should be paying attention to. And I know that both of those, I mentioned both of those platforms by name because I know they both are trying to get or working in Australia. And so this technology's getting to you, right? Now that I'm getting there, it's all going to be there. Don't worry about it.
Terrific. We look forward to it.
Well, yeah, but so I want, maybe this is a good opportunity too, because to talk about the Australian market in a little bit more depth, because I think maybe people don't understand, exactly what's going on. You like you said, they're geographically challenged in a lot of ways. Kind of far by traveling. I know that can be people have resistance to this. I, for one, was not at all resistant. Let me go ahead and just put that on the record. But what else should people understand about the Australian market? Like if they're curious about coming down for the conference, or just curious about bringing a solution down there, or just curious about what it looks like from a business point of view.
Yeah. Look, the biggest challenge for us, as we were saying, is that we have a relatively small population, but spread over a really large geographic area. So, I work most particularly in the arts and cultural side. So when we're bringing productions to Australia, our clients are bringing productions to Australia. They face the challenge of the fact that to play a show in Australia, you really do need to play it in multiple markets. It's not like a Broadway or a West End where you can bring a major musical and sit it down and it sits in that location and plays for years, year after year, or even month after month. In Australia, we just don't have the population to support a show that sits down for multiple years in one location. You might be able to play a show in Australia for a year or two, but it will need to move between the major cities, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide, really. Beyond that, there are a few sort of markets that are emerging that can support some of the major productions, but really you're looking at 5 cities at the most, and they're really far apart. They're spread really, really far apart. To move a production from Brisbane to Perth, I'm told, is 60 hours for a driver to drive, because they obviously need to rest. So it costs a lot of money every time you move a production. So you're accruing a lot of costs to mount the production in the first place, and then every time you move it from city to city. So that, I guess, that's the biggest challenge is finding the right mix of how long a production can can play in each market, because obviously every week that you play, you accrue more costs. And then, how quickly can you move between these markets? And then, are the venues available at the times that you need it? So I think that's a big challenge that we are always trying to solve in this market. People ask all the time, what does the market look like in Australia? How are things selling? And my response is almost always, it depends. We have product here that's doing incredibly well. We have product that's struggling to find a market and struggling to find an audience. We have sellout concerts, and then we have concerts that need a little help to get across the line. But the exciting thing is that more and more we are getting a diverse array of product through here. We're getting there's more musicals, there's more concerts, there's incredible sporting events that are coming to Australia, and we are finding an audience. The challenge with that is there's talk of the market being quite crowded, because we are seeing a lot of product come through. The exciting thing about that for us is that when we are faced with these challenges, and we do have productions that are needing to find new ways of attracting audiences, that's where innovation starts. So I think it's an exciting time for us. It's a challenging time for us. There's as I said, there's a lot of shows and a lot of concerts that are still looking for that audience, and we're trying new things. So I guess that's a summary.
Yeah, no, that is a summary, and I think what people maybe don't realize, or maybe don't recognize, or just don't know, is that the Australian live entertainment, sports, and all those industries, they really punch above their weight compared to the rest of the world too, because Australians consume entertainment and sports and experiences at a much higher rate than the rest of the world, and to me that's very exciting. And so, which brings up, the idea of competition, right? And I know that's one of the things that's on people's minds, because there are so many things going on. The challenge is, like, how do you stay competitive, right? And you talked about it with, like, some of the shows that you help bring to Australia, is that the competition's really, really stiff. And it's a big challenge of getting people into buildings. I want to talk about one specific example that I don't know if you remember we talked about probably a year or so ago, but you've used some really creative packaging and pricing models in the past to help people you work with overcome competition and help sell more tickets. How, from your point of view, how creative and what are some of the cool things that you're doing as far as helping people overcome competition? Because I know that's one of the things that people were asking you about for the conference this year, is how to build a market and how to overcome competition.
Yeah. Oh, look. There's been so many different things that we have tried. Some have worked and some haven't. But look, I think pricing is an absolute is absolutely key. Pricing your shows effectively and efficiently, and adopting new pricing strategies, I think would be, if I was to choose one thing that's had the single biggest impact, it's pricing, offering a range of prices, using dynamic pricing and dynamic price barriers, and really flexing. That it has been, I guess, the activity that has had the biggest impact on sales and in terms of volume and revenue. But on each production, that takes a different form. So I would say after pricing, packaging, we are always looking for the best way to do that. And again, it's constantly changing. How we work with the travel industry, I think, if I'm looking at what the biggest problem that we're trying to solve right now, is how we work better with the travel industry to provide package solutions for customers who want to travel. We have events that might only play in one city. The Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo is a great example of this, where we have this incredible iconic event that's coming to Australia, but is only playing in Sydney. So how we work with the travel industry to allow customers from all over the country and from all over the Asia Pacific region to access inventory and meet their travel needs as well, accommodation and flights and whatever else they need in order for them to attend this event. That has again required us to be innovative. How do we work with these organisations to ensure that we're meeting their needs so they can meet the customer needs and really extend the marketing reach of the production by working with partners who can help us reach these audiences. So I think that's something that we're most particularly focusing on right now is finding a travel solution. There's some great examples of how that's done overseas, and as is often the way with innovation, or when you're trying to find a solution to a problem, you look to see if someone else has already solved this for you. There's some great examples that we've seen overseas, and some organisations that we're talking to who can help us with that.
I call that lovingly stealing from others.
Yes.
and I do that. And it's funny that you brought that up because I am working on something right now that is going to require me to lovingly steal ideas from all over the world along the same lines. But one more thing I want to bring up is because it's kind of been a thread here throughout all the stuff we've been talking about. And I know it was, again, like as I was making notes about what we were going to talk about and what people have brought up to me so far, is the need. I guess I don't know if it's a need or it's a desire or if it's a need and a desire or exactly how to frame it around customer service and the ever-changing tastes of the customer and the need to always reinvent the way that we serve customers. And I know that's been on your mind. I have started to do some surveys and some questionnaires that I've been sending out to people I know in Australia. And customer service keeps coming back over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I know that it's a big thing everywhere, right? And I know you're familiar with my line, which is that customer service is the best form of marketing, and my belief in that. What seems to be, is it just I guess, how do I want to frame the question is this focus on customer service a recognition of the need and the value of customer service as a marketing tool and as a way to create a competitive advantage? Or is it sort of a coming about because of something that, I guess, a break in the chain of the customer value chain?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Look, I think there's a number of things that are driving it. On any production that we work on, we find that word of mouth is the single biggest selling tool whenever we do research and surveys into our audiences. Word of mouth keeps coming up. So customers coming along, having a fantastic experience and telling their friends about it is an incredibly powerful way to drive sales. But there's, in regards to customers, having been in the industry for as long as I have, whenever we wanted to know something about our customers, what they were thinking, what they were feeling, we would go. The first place you would go to is you'd ask the box office or you'd ask the call center because they were talking to the customers every day. You wanted to know something about customers, you talk to the people who were talking to the customers. These days, we're talking less and less to our customers, particularly in the purchase process, with so much of our business, the majority of our business happening online now. Online transactions are almost all we have these days, and so we're talking less to our customers. So finding ways to find the information that we need for our customers. I think in some cases, yes, that has led to a disconnect between the organisations and their customers. If you're not talking to them as much, you know less about them. So finding ways to find what the customer's expectations are and meet them is again another challenge for us.
And I think that's a challenge for a lot of people because what you said is like, oh yeah, like if you want to know what's going on with the customers, you go to the people who are dealing with them on the front line. that should seem obvious to people, but it often isn't. And so, like, that's interesting that you explain it in such a way that it's used to be like your default setting, but now you have to work really even harder. And this is like this is interesting to think about as like I'm preparing to talk about what I'm going to talk about. Is because that is like a sign of change, because it probably means that you still need that customer intelligence. You probably and you need it more than ever, because you can't get it just from like as easily. You have to be more creative and more thoughtful in the way that you're engaging your customers, which probably means that you're going to have to work harder on the ways that you find to engage with the customers, right? You know, it's not just like, oh yeah, we'll throw out a survey, right? You got to be intentional in everything. So it's a huge problem, I think, for everybody, right? Because the customer's king.
Yes.
Now,
yeah, the customer, absolutely.
Customer is king. And in that vein of the customer is king, let's go back to the conference for just a second, because I know that as a way to help make sure that you have the proper number of quote-unquote customers at your conference, right? Delegates, to me, they're going to be friends when I'm done with them. They better be. Don't come if you don't plan on being my friend. Is that you've had the opportunity to work with a couple of really great people and organizations, and they're going to have a few scholarship opportunities so that people have a chance to experience the conference, understand change, and take some of these ideas and some of these challenges and add their take to them, but also learn. Can you talk about the scholarship program a little bit, so that because I want to expose those things and I want to make people aware of them, because I think this is a good way for people to be able to experience what you're putting together.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're really excited about this, and we will we'll be making the official announcement on the scholarship programs next week. But
make some news, Angela. Give us some news. Come on, newsy.
So we are offering three scholarships, 3 places to people who may not otherwise be able to attend the conference, and it's a really important part of what we're trying to achieve with this conference. So, and they're supported by 3 incredible people in the industry. As I said earlier, Joe and I were very fortunate to have incredible mentors coming. As we were coming through our careers. And one of those was an incredible lady by the name of Pat Boggs, who, if you've worked in ticketing in Australia, you'll know that name. Pat's an icon in the industry and was really the first person in this market to sort of do what I do, and that was consult with producers and work with them on how to maximise audiences and sell more tickets. Pat had 2 very famous sayings. One was, there are no problems, only solutions. And the other one was that people who never make mistakes don't do any work. And so those are 2 things that have stayed with me very much through my career. And so we are offering a scholarship in Pat's name. She's going to actually help us select the winner of the scholarship. But we're going to ask people to make a submission and tell us about the biggest problem that you've faced and the solution that you implemented, or the biggest mistake you made and the solution that you needed to implement in order to address that. So that will be one criteria. Then the second scholarship that we're offering is in the name of Tim Roberts. Tim Roberts was, again, an icon in the industry, and for many years produced the Ticketing Professionals Conference. Sadly, about 7 or 8 years ago, Tim passed away quite suddenly, and at the time, the Ticketing Professionals Conference sadly wasn't able to continue for a number of years until Joe and I got together and decided to reinvent it. So this scholarship will be offered in Tim's name and supported by Stage Queensland, which we're really excited about. So there'll be details on how to apply for that one on the website next week. And finally, we have a really, really generous member of the ticketing community by the name of Linda Forlini, who, is at Ticket Philadelphia and a board member at Intix. Linda was hoping to get out to the conference. Sadly, won't be able to make it out this year, but wanted to give the opportunity, pay the way for someone else to attend. And she specifically asked that the opportunity goes to a newcomer, somebody in the first 3 years of their career. So we're looking for a brand new start for somebody in the ticketing industry. So Linda has very generously offered that scholarship. So we're thrilled that that we're going to be able to offer those opportunities to people who might not otherwise be able to come.
And I think that we should do a great job of promoting Linda's as much as possible, only because I know it will embarrass her. So we should definitely go for that. We should go crazy on promoting that one because it will be embarrassing to her.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Apologies in advance, Linda. But we're very grateful.
No, I think it's great. I just know, like, I'll ask her to do something, or like all the time she'll be like, I don't want that kind of attention, so I know it embarrasses her. So this, like, having her name on it to me is great. Yeah. So how can people? Where should we send people to find out about you and the conference?
Great. Well, the best place we have is the Ticketing Professionals Conference website, so ticketingprofessionals.com.au. But we're also on Facebook and Twitter, so find us there.
And you can find Jo is on Twitter, and she is at Jo M Michelle, that with one L, not two. And you are at. You're going to have to tell you. It's Ange_Tix. Is that right, or?
It's Garn_Antics, GAHAN_Antics.
Okay, I knew it was something like that. You put me on the spot, and I'm grateful that you're allowing me to come and be such a big part of the conference. And I really can't encourage the people listening to come, any more than I probably will over the next four months. But they should definitely look into it. It's going to be fantastic. There's obviously going to be a questionable opening keynote speaker, but he'll do his best. Don't worry. And so I'm really excited for what you're building, and I want to thank you for doing the podcast so that we can promote this even more.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Well, look, we appreciate, as you know, we're thrilled to have you on board, and it's been, as I said, 2 years of discussions to get to this point. So we're thrilled that we're going to be able to deliver the style of conference and the style of discussion that we really feel that will benefit the industry. So we're thrilled that you're on board, and we can't wait. Bring on November.
Come on, November, indeed. What did you think about my conversation with Angela Higgins, and are you going to go to the conference? Send me an email. It's my name, dave@davewakeman.com, with your thoughts, your ideas, your questions, your comments, whatever, suggested guests, any kind of thing you want to. As always, you can find me by visiting my website. It is my name, davewakeman.com, where you'll find my blog. You'll find all kinds of information about me. It's just a great resource, I think, for people. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Dave Wakeman. I'll come up. You can follow me on Twitter, @DavidWakeman. If you know the person with the @DaveWakeman Twitter handle, tell him to give it up to me. I don't think the guy's tweeted since 2014. I need that. It's off-brand for me to have to use something else besides @DaveWakeman. As always, if you like what I'm doing with the podcast, I'd love it if you would share this podcast with one person, a colleague or a friend who you think would benefit from maybe the conversation I had just now with Angela, or one of the ones I've had with Martin Gameltoff, some of the ones I did last month with Tony Knopp or Patrick Ryan, any of those. Just share it with one person because it allows me to continue to deliver great conversations and great content that hopefully help you be more effective in your business. If you are so inclined, I'd love it if you'd become a subscriber to the podcast so you never miss an episode. We are on almost all, if not all, of the major platforms now: iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. I can even pull you up in I can pull myself up in my car. It's exciting. And if you subscribe, or even if you don't, if you could leave a review, it helps make sure people find the podcast, understand that there's value here, and it encourages me again to continue to deliver these things. As always, I want to thank my friends at Booking Protect, the global leaders in refund protection. I've only mentioned it about 50 or 100 times, I think, on this episode, but you're going to be able to see me and Simon Mabb, the CEO of Booking Protect, in Sydney in November, on the 14th and 15th at the Ticketing Professionals Conference in Australia, Sydney, right? Find out more about Booking Protect and how you can partner with them to deliver a world-class customer service experience, better buying and customization for your customers, and you can create a new revenue stream for your organization. And you can find all of that by visiting them on their website, which is www.bookingprotect.com. To get tickets to the Ticketing Professionals Conference, you want to visit their website, which is www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. As an added incentive, if you buy your tickets to the Ticket Professionals Conference in Sydney on the 14th and 15th of November, and you send me your invoice to my email address, dave@davewakeman.com, I'll do something special for you. I don't know what it is. The more people you send to the conference, though, the better my surprise for you is going to be. Don't let me sway you, but it could be almost anything that I will do. The more people you send, the bigger the prize is going to be. Don't miss out. You never know what I'll do for you. All right, so send that to me, dave@davewakeman.com. I'm really excited for Angela and Joe, and I'm really excited for me to come and for Simon to come with me, so that we have a chance to connect with all of you and to see Australia, learn about what you guys are up to and gals are up to, see the Sydney Opera House, no doubt, all of those things. So make sure you follow us, connect with Simon at www.bookingprotect.com, and make sure you follow along with the Ticketing Professionals Conference in Sydney by going to www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. Again, connect with Booking Protect and find out what they're up to, and how refund protection products can add value to your customers, and the customer service difference that Booking Protect has by visiting them at www.bookingprotect.com, and find out about the Ticketing Professionals Conference in Sydney in November by visiting www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. And if you book your tickets, send me your receipt, and I'll hook you up with something. I don't know what it is, but I promise you it will be awesome. As always, thank you for listening. Until I see you again, take it easy.